Thank you. Indeed, I've been working on so often on the upper part of the wheel, trying to help people put the right people into the right place, but more and more discovering how that southern part of the wheel is actually the foundation and the glue of everything. I'd love to, similarly to Anthony, but not as adventurous, but to try to share a bit of my background as well, and to talk you towards how we now use this for in our work with individuals like yourself, with teams and with companies. And for me, the whole fascination around what is it that binds people together was by studying sociology. And the organizational sociology was the part that I graduated in. And I was interested in culture, what builds a strong culture, and to learn about leadership. But I also realized I know nothing about business. So everywhere where this was applied, I had no idea, really, being young, not coming from an entrepreneurial family. So I started working for Start People Group. It's a huge staffing group that has like 300,000 people every day working through them. And this was really about placing people at the right places. And learning, for me, it was a big learning, a strong learning curve about the different kinds of organizations that are out there and who does what in what kind of context. I did miss, though, I mean, this was a very fast paced environment, and I learned a lot in terms of people, organization, my own skills. But something was missing as well. It was fast, filling gaps, and there was nothing about building that community. It was not about what is good leadership. And I took a step towards Mercury Erval, a Swedish from origin management consulting company. They were pioneers in the field of predicting people's success based on their personalities, their ways of thinking. And through this firm, I learned very deeply to analyze if this is your organization context, if this is your strategy, what does it ask in terms of competencies and personality of people in order to enjoy this environment, to be successful, and to accelerate results. So that was very fascinating. Dived into coaching there as well. Oh, not sure what happened there. Um, but again, it was still, even though it was much more fascinating for me, it was still a pretty rational process, I have to say. And some other things happened in my life, and I had the opportunity to finally follow other dreams that I had and just go in search of inspiration. I had always been wondering, what do other people in the world value? What is happiness according to others? What is success according to others? So I quit my job and fitted everything I thought I needed into one bag. And that indeed was very easy to live from for about a year with some projects in the middle of it. But I didn't miss anything while I had a 3-story house, and I felt freedom actually. And you know, the having to trust on yourself, rely on yourself, but especially also on others, because you come in places where they don't speak your language and you have to find your way. And I was curious in other people, and I got that was a return. People were also interested in me, and I found out how proud people were of their culture, and it was not something I knew from how I grew up. So that was fascinating. I met Anthony. That's a story on itself. But when I continued to the African continent and continued to explore the vastness of nature and being close to things that are really important, losing every dancing competition out there, and starting to also be embraced by the Maasai community near Nairobi, where I started working. I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot about how every age group has relevance and how everybody knows how they contribute to the community. And I learned a lot from the youth, especially. I was very fascinated by their process of redefining their identity. Young guys in their teenage years who were talking about how can we practice our values, like courage, for example, a very important value for the Maasai. And being a warrior, courage is really something that you need to show, and that earns you status. But how can you show courage when you're not allowed to kill lions anymore like you used to? So they had meetings to talk to each other. How do we redefine this value for us? Or how can we show our courage, our responsibility, and respect so that we contribute? And I found it fascinating. And the welcome was always warm, and I got a new family there. Being tall doesn't necessarily mean the same as standing tall, and that was a very good reminder for me. That is how I called my own coaching company for courage and clarity, and I founded that in Kenya, and started working with a small group of people who were inspired by Anthony as well. We started using, or we used territory mapping for East African companies. And I would then also jump in as a coach and a management consultant with my experience on helping to guide the process after you have this beautiful diagnostics out of these maps. What do we do next? And recently, Anthony and I really teamed up intensely and started to develop a couple of programs that I'm happy to tell you more about. But kind of summarizing from Anthony's stories and from my understanding, this is really why we are learning from nomads, indigenous people, and ancient wisdom, because the ability to thrive in changing, constantly changing environments, they've been doing that for thousands of years. And when you embrace that kind of way of thinking, change, you accept it. It is part of life and it doesn't cause you stress. You identify as an agile group and always are on the lookout for new chances, opportunities, always on the lookout for solutions. And you use really the people around you, the wisdom of everyone to make decisions. Anthony often tells the story of when he asked somebody here, who is the leader? They would answer with, tell us your problem. We have many leaders. So who is the right leader around your fire to make decisions together with? And what they have as well is the clarity on the purpose, identity, how you contribute, where you are relevant. And that gives such a sense of belonging. And when leadership is earned by what you contribute, and that not based on your title, not based on your background, but really based on what you contribute. Now, this is what creates that glue and that solid interdependence between people that makes you adaptable and that makes it possible to change and to migrate. The theory behind maps, Anthony, the way he discovered it, it was such a natural, organic, beautiful, inspired process. But there's actually so much reasons as to why this is a powerful tool. And they come from neuroscience, from neurolinguistic programming, from all kinds of research. And the importance of, I heard many coaches in this group, you all know, and leaders and strategists, you know the importance of visualizing where you want to go, right? Now imagine if you are able to do that on one piece of paper, which represents your whole ecosystem, and that you can share with others and start to really anticipate that future and that vision by thinking about the routes, thinking about the roads, thinking about the bridges, the barriers. Now, this starts to create really new connections, new neurological pathways for people to automatically start to show different behaviors. And there's a thing about maps as well. If you have drawn out, like there's a swamp on my path, when you then find yourself in that swamp, you are reminded, you know that there's more, there's something behind that swamp. And that is just very, very comforting. Now, how do we bring this now to boardrooms, to teams, and to individuals? Really, we take people on a journey. You taste a little bit of that journey now by our stories, by our pictures, by our words. But then there's also a process to it. And this map is kind of the visualization of the personal process we take people through. And it's a starting point, actually. And to briefly guide you through this, we help people start to think about their greener pastures. You know the future. What does freedom, clarity mean to you? Where do you want to go? What does the sunshine represent? Is it positivity? Is it energy? What is it? And who are with you around the fire? Maybe you have clear objectives. You want your inner moral compass to feel right, with the right kind of balance, and feeling also rooted and strong and belonging. So define that future for yourself, and then also think about where are you now, and what does that mean for the routes you have to travel? Where do you need to be courageous? And we all resonate with certain metaphors, like the challenge of mountains, having to cross mountains on your route where you need to get through, whether it's the mountains of self doubt and limiting beliefs, or whether it's the mountains of miscommunication, or whatever it is. There are swamps that get you stuck where you lose energy. But if you know what your feathers are to share, to contribute, if you know what the responsibility of your spear is, and if you know what is worth protecting, that gives you so much, such a refreshing view on your identity and where you have the power of personality and the wealth of experience and the status of your contribution, that it helps you really guide your journey. So in 5 steps, usually this is all tailorable, but we take people through territory mapping, we take them to swamp management, we take them through feather spears and shield session, we take them through mountaineering sessions, and all that built while traveling and navigating the journey and their map. And in the final session is really about commitment. What else do you need to get going? So that is just briefly an overview of individual programs. And with teams or with a whole company, we start with also talking to the chief about the future. As Anthony described in the wheel, really start with talking about what is the culture, community that you want to build. What does your vision really mean in terms of those words? And then based on that understanding, we ask people to draw their maps. How do they see the best route? And from those different perspectives, the emotional perspectives of how everybody experiences reality, we then facilitate to bring that into one shared map that now everybody has contributed to and that everybody understands. And then in the second guided session, we work that out further in more detail. Now, what are you sharing and contributing to your customers, in your market, to each other? Where are the big opportunities to hunt? What is worth protecting? Which of your customers do you really need to hold dear? Or who in your community? And from that, we work that out again in some projects and in priorities. Now, where do we need to start? What is most important first and who does what? And based on that clarity, we take it again to an individual level, but now really from the perspective of what do I need to do? How do I contribute? Where am I relevant to make this work? And what are my swamps and mountains? What do I need from the people around the fire to be successful? And by sharing that with each other, you create such a beautiful and strong understanding of, you start recognizing, Anthony, we're going into the swamp, or you start recognizing things and it becomes safe to mention it and to talk about it because it's a metaphor. And then in the 5th session, that is really about the common unity. Now, what goals do we really commit to? How do we keep each other's levels of trust high? Embracing the I will not complain philosophy and dropping some of the things that really leak our energy. And how do we celebrate progress? So this is an example or an overview, and this is of course also highly tailorable, but of a process that we take teams through. And you can use this for so many things, and this is sometimes it's in one way it's great that you can use it for so many things, but it's also not doesn't always make it easier to explain. But how can you look at this? You can use it for team alignment to get people on one map. You can use it at a moment to bring your management team together and think about the future and what does that future look like and what is our main route. You can use it really for starting to build culture and look below the surface. And it can be the foundation with that for change programs. We also talk about using this in de-risking investments. Imagine all the stakeholders understanding each other's maps and how do we go about this new business. For individuals, random individuals are taking this as a one-on-one. but also it can be part for your staff for their training or coaching budgets, but also groups of management trainees, really thinking about that leadership part of the wheel. We're using it for succession planning. The person who's leaving, the person who's coming, drawing their maps, understanding each other, or for onboarding, immediately understanding where am I contributing, and what is our market, what is our territory. So these are just a few ideas to leave you with. That is what I wanted to share with you to make it a bit more tangible.